Yo, I'm Bob. Into Star Wars, happen to be totally blind since birth. Talking about episode 2 of Ahsoka on Disney Plus. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the episode and you don't want to get spoiled, go on and watch it. Although, if you're looking for a recap slash review, then, well, you can watch this. You don't care about spoilers. You do you. That being said, here we go. The episode is entitled Toil and Trouble. And when I was watching this episode on premiere night, when Nicole Zanzarella read it aloud via the audio description track, I thought of The Tragedy of Macbeth by William Shakespeare, because the weird sisters, they utter the phrase bubble, bubble, toil and trouble in that play. Although if you're a Star Wars fan and you hear that cropping up in Star Wars, you automatically think of the Night Sisters. I did read a ton of the expanded universe books when I was a kid. So I thought of the Night Sisters. Of course, they're canon now, and I thought of the Night Sisters as the episode was beginning. But the title misled me. I mislead myself quite a bit anyway. But yeah, I thought of the Night Sisters. I thought we were going to get a bit more witchy goings on than we did. We did get a little bit of Morgan Elsbeth in this episode. Not as much as I would have liked, but the episode does start out with Sabine being in trouble. She's not in good graces with Ahsoka. Ahsoka's disappointed with her choices. She's let the map fall into the hands of our rogue Jedi, our false Jedi. I tend to want to think of them as dark Jedi from the old EU books. That's where my mind goes. Not quite sure what they are yet. But yeah, Ahsoka has to go find a droid that's left intact to find memory core and therefore lead them to wherever the star map has been taken. Well, you got to go one place to get to another place in Star Wars, but you know how it is. Ahsoka goes off. We get a really sweet duel, a very brief duel with an assassin droid. He's kind of on his last legs anyway before he goes down. I like that we get to see Sabine's pet Lothcat again before Ahsoka takes the droid back to Sabine there on the hospital. The bad guys, we get to see them right away. They're on Cetos. And this is a location I don't think we've seen in canon yet. I don't think it's been in the comic books. I don't think it was in the EU books back when I was reading them. This is a new location. And I like the ominous music that's playing as we see Baylan, Shin, and Morgan when the episode starts. And apparently the Eye of Sion is headed there. And Marok's got to go to Corellia and get the last hyperdrive to hook up to this big starship. So, yeah, I thought of Darth Sion from Knights of the Old Republic 2, along with many other fans, I'm sure. I had some friends who love those games, so I thought of that. I also thought of the Eye of Palpatine from Children of the Jedi by Barbara Hambly. The Children of the Jedi, well, I mean, they were mentioned in this episode as well when Baylan talks about the path to Peridia later in the episode. I don't know if that was a specific novel reference, but when anybody says Children of the Jedi, I think of the abridged audiobook narrated by Anthony Heald way back in the 90s. But yeah, the Eye of Sion, I think it's a wicked cool starship, and I can't wait to see this thing in action. Didn't get any of that in the episode. They're still working on it, installing quite a few things. So once Sabine works her techno mojo and she gleans that this droid, this assassin droid, HK droid, has come from Corellia, that's where Hera and Ahsoka are going to have to go in order to figure out what's going on. I wish we could see Morgan in a book. You guys will probably see her in a comic book before I get to see her in a book, though. I wonder what she was up to during the days of the Empire. What she had going on Corellia, other than heading shipyards and things like that. I like that Corellia is still responsible for starship production in the Disney timeline. No Human League in Star Wars canon yet. whenever we get to hear about Corellia in post Return of the Jedi era, I'm always going to think of Han's murderous cousin Thraken Sal Solo and his xenophobia and him, starting the Human League. But I like that we got to go to Corellia. It's one of my favorite locations because I remember it quite fondly from the Corellian trilogy back in the 90s. But we get to go there. We saw it in Solo, a Star Wars story in canon. So it's fun that we get to revisit this planet in Ahsoka Episode 2. So we get to see Morgan working her Night Sister magic, and she's showing Baylan and Shin just how far Thrawn is in that other galaxy. According to the audio description track, he's way in the other galaxy. And when Baylan asks who built the structure on Cetos, Morgan says it's built by a people from a distant galaxy, an ancient race. So I've been reading Star Wars stuff since I was around, like 13, 14. The encyclopedias, the Young Jedi Knight series. I remember reading about Infinity Gates on Wikipedia years ago. We do tend to think of races like the Kwa. And my friend Alicia mentioned the Kwa after the episode aired, and they flitted in and out of my head as well. Of course, I thought of them being the inventors of the Infinity Gates, and their technology was eventually taken over by the Rakatans at some point. But if you've read the Young Jedi Knights books, and if you've read Shadow Academy, I finished that recently, reading it unabridged for the first time. They do visit Dathomir, one of the Jedi Tennoka. She's got some Dathomiri in her blood. So there's a race called the Blue Mountain People in the EU, and these guys they're somewhat descendants of the Kwa, but they're very peaceful race. They're telepathic. They tend to honk at each other when they're communicating. So they don't look like geese, but that's what I hear in my head whenever reading that book. But yeah, just a little bit of Young Jedi Knights history there. It's one of my favorite series. It's kind of fun to be able to read those. We get to see a little bit of Cetos in this episode. We get to see a lot of Lothal. And this is an episode in which both, I think, Hera and Huyang are trying to get Ahsoka and Sabine to reconcile their differences. I like that they seem to be working in tandem with each other. I like to think that they had some kind of holo conference when Ahsoka and Sabine were kind of elsewhere. Like, hey, we're going to have to get these guys to work out the differences. So you do this, I'm going to do this, let's see what we can do. I doubt that happened, but jokingly, that's what I kind of think might have happened. And we get to see Huyang really shine in this episode. Sabine is beating herself up for losing the map. And, Hera lets her know that even though she did lose it, that she did well. And she's letting Sabine know that, yeah, hey, Ahsoka does want you back. And Huyang is a bit more stern with her. He's like, come on, you need to come back and you need to train. Just because Ahsoka's not training you, just saying that she won't train you, that's a poor excuse. You need to come back, and the only time that you're wasting is your own. And he's such a wise, enigmatic droid. There are some instances in which I forget that he is a droid because he sounds more like a sensei, more like like a Jedi master. Not that he is one, but I mean, hey, if you've read of Possible Futures from Tales of the Bounty Hunters in the old expanded universe timeline, there is a droid that, I think he might have had a couple of premonitions, so I don't know. seeing Corellia in the episode, I really liked it a lot. We get to see that, yes, the Empire still has sway on Corellia. It doesn't matter who you're working for. I guess if you get paid enough, you'll work for whoever. And so that's what a lot of these folks on Corellia are up to. And they're using the Super Star Destroyer hyperdrives to go into the Eye of Sion. And there is just a little brief scene where we get to see Ahsoka and Hera as they get to Corellia, and we get a little action scene where they make short work of these guys. There's not much audio description going into this scene. They stupidly decide to attack Ahsoka and Hera after they find out, oh, well, you know, there's an HK droid who just hopped onto this transport. Now we got to go after it. And, you know, we get this short and sweet scene. All of them are taken out like nothing. And then we get to see this duel with Marok toward the end of the episode. He's fighting Ahsoka. The only thing he says so far is "oof" when she kicks him. So I don't know who's voicing the character. I'm sure there's probably been some fan or another that's listened to that grunt over and over and over and over again. And they might have compared it to Sam Witwer, because apparently he's done some additional voices in these 2 episodes. Now I want to go back and rewatch them and see if I can pick him out. But yeah, all that Marok has said is "oof." That's all we get. Loses the duel. Well, I guess it's kind of a standoff, but he gets away. So we get to see Sabine. She stops feeling sorry for herself. She stops believing that she's failed, and she decides to cut her hair. Remember the individual in the last video? And I was like, that she'd mentioned, oh man, you know, he's going to get her self messed up if she gets into a fight with somebody. She was quite relieved when Sabine cut her hair at the end of this episode. Plus, I'm told that she looks more like she does in the animated series with shorter hair. So it's just a visual thing that was bugging this individual. I forgot that she had long hair. Honestly, they don't mention it in the audio description, so it's something that I really didn't think of that much. So, of course, we have Sabine deciding to buddy up with Ahsoka again, have Ahsoka be her master. I like that Hu Yang, earlier in the episode, says something along the lines of, you know, he's seen many younglings, many Padawans over the centuries, and Sabine's talent falls short of them all. So I like that things are twice as difficult for her. It's not going to come very easy for her, that we know of, and I hope that it doesn't. I tend to think that she might adopt the Jedi principles, attempt to adopt their way of life, similar to the way that Chirrut did. I mean, Chirrut wasn't a Jedi, but I mean, this is a whole new era of Star Wars history, and Ahsoka has said it herself, she's no Jedi, so I'm not sure what in the world we're going to be seeing here with this new way of training. So I guess that's still open to whatever Dave and the other writers are leading up to. I don't even know if we'll get the answers in this show. I like how the episode, though, ends with Morgan, and she's speaking with Baylan and Shin, and she's not too happy with Baylan's hesitation to kill Ahsoka, because now they have the information that they need. They know that they need to head to Cetos in order to stop the bad guys from launching into parts unknown, into the other galaxy to find Thrawn. They've got what they needed because they were able to put a tracking device on that transport when Marok jumped. And I love seeing Chopper in this episode. He and Hera having that little bit of banter. I love that. Absolutely love Chopper. He's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, the episode ends with Baylan being a little hesitant to have to hurt or eventually kill Ahsoka. And Morgan, she picks up on that. She's like, oh yeah, you're a bit hesitant here. And he's like, well, she's the last of the Jedi. There are so few of us left now. She's like, oh, sentiment. And he's like, no, it's truth. Of course, I tend to wonder about that as well. But of course, it could be practicality on his part. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. This episode, this video is going to be published on August the 29th. Ahsoka Episode 3 premiere day. So I have no idea what the next episode is going to be called. It hasn't aired yet. So I'll hear you guys in the Episode 3 video discussion of whatever the episode title is. We don't know yet. This is weird. So until next time, may the Force be with you.